Greetings, gentlemen and ladies. I am the old school game snob, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking about 5 reasons that I think Diablo 2 and, of course, Diablo Resurrected is so endlessly replayable. This video will talk about the 5 endgames of Diablo 2 playstyles that keep people interested and hooked for, honestly, years and years and years. It's really amazing. This game is something else. So any Diablo 2 player will tell you that Diablo 2's main quest and storyline is absolutely wonderful, well written, interesting, exciting. You really feel like a hero when you play Diablo 2. But beyond the main storyline, there are things that keep players playing. There are endgame playstyles that keep players coming back for more. The first endgame playstyle is what I like to call the Collector. The Collector is interested in acquiring the most rare and unique items in the game. In fact, there's even an unofficial challenge in Diablo 2 called the Holy Grail Quest, which involves collecting every item, every unique and special magical item in the game. And to my knowledge, there are not many people who have actually completed the Holy Grail Quest. The challenge of this particular endgame, as well as the sheer exhilaration that any long-term Diablo 2 player can tell you for when you actually find one of these rare and powerful items, keeps a player hooked. It's an absolute endorphin rush to find something extremely powerful and rare. It really and truly feels like you found something special and achieved something amazing. Why is this a great endgame? Well, the reason is that when a game starts to lose its challenge, when you've done everything in a game and there's no longer anything to do, that is actually where boredom kicks in. As a player, your goal is to conquer the game, acquire all the great loot, level up as high as you can, and then once you get there, well, you'll feel like you've made it. The problem is that with most games, when you get there, there's nothing left to do. So instead of feeling this great sense of accomplishment and this great sort of happiness, what actually happens instead, you start to feel bored. There's no challenge left in the game, and that's when most games are quit. With Diablo 2 and Diablo Resurrected, that is really not a problem, because players can play for 20 years, honestly, and still not find all the super rare items in the game. It's astronomical how unlikely it is to find some of these, and at the same time, you could go out one day and just find the most amazing item. For the collector in Diablo 2, the thrill of finding something is always present, and of course, more often than not, very much elusive, and that keeps the challenge in the game for a very, very long time and keeps players interested. The next endgame in Diablo 2 appeals to a certain type of player. The rush of PvP combat can be a lot of fun and endlessly challenging. It also provides an additional incentive to want to collect the best gear and build a powerful character. So if collecting items just for the sake of collecting them doesn't appeal to you, PvP can provide that extra incentive to want to create a powerful character. PvP, player versus player, is just straight up a lot of fun. There are games that are geared entirely around PvP only, so that can tell you a little bit about just how fun PvP is just on its own. And in Diablo Resurrected, PvP is just one part of a broader game, which makes the entire rest of the game that much more appealing to the PvPer type of personality, because it adds this extra layer of meaning and purpose to all the other things that you do in the game. You're gearing up for the arena, you're gearing up for the challenge, you're gearing up for the competition. That is purpose. That is long-term play purpose. That is longevity in a game. Not to mention that the skills required to become a good PvPer is a game in and of itself. It's a learning journey and a challenge in and of itself. And you're facing up against other players who are also improving and learning and adapting. So you must also continue to learn and improve and adapt. This creates its own endgame loop of skill, improving skill, and getting better at a game and just having a lot of fun. And there's really nothing like the thrill of victory in combat. Next on this list, we have hardcore gameplay. That is, when you die for good, and there's no resurrecting your character or bringing him or her back. This style of gameplay heightens the gameplay experience, heightens the thrill, heightens the challenge. Every move could be your last move, and it is very difficult to use up all the content in the game to achieve all the endgame goals such as collecting items and creating even a powerful character that survives when one single death means the end of your run. And so this in and of itself keeps the game challenging, and when you hold challenge, you also hold interest. It's very difficult for players to become bored of hardcore play because it's always exciting. The goal is simple and it is pure. It is simply survive. That is the ongoing challenge of hardcore play. So take this primary goal of hardcore play, simply to survive, and combine it with some of the other play styles, such as simply completing the game's quest and storyline, completing some of the endgame, such as the Pandemonium event, and completing perhaps even some of the item collection goals, such as the Holy Grail quest, or even leveling up your character to a very high level. When you combine these goals with hardcore play, the challenge basically goes through the roof, and it's something that you will almost never achieve, and so you'll never get bored. So that's why this is a beautiful endgame. This is my favorite style of play. The challenge is real, and even if you're not intrinsically attracted to hardcore, knowing that there is another level of challenge beyond your softcore run is in and of itself an intriguing prospect that I think a lot of softcore players dabble with the idea of. Number 4 on this list, we have the soothing grind of gameplay. This is actually really just a very relaxing game to play. It looks like a lot of battle and carnage and stuff going on, but once you get the feel for it, it's very relaxing and weirdly soothing. You know what's funny is a game like the Euro Truck Simulator is one of the most popular games, I think, on Steam currently. And what do you do in that game? You drive around in a truck for ages and ages. And why do people like that? Because it's relaxing. It's low brain activity, but just enough brain activity to keep you stimulated. And that in and of itself is a fun reason just to keep playing Diablo, for the relaxation. What I like to do is I fire up Diablo and I put on an audiobook from Audible. No sponsorship intended here, although that would probably be a good idea. So I put on an audiobook from Audible and I'll listen to like a 6-10 hour stretch and I'll get through an entire audiobook. It's like watching a movie and playing a game at the same time. It's a really nice combination. It's like when you listen to an audiobook while you're driving, you don't fall asleep because your brain is at least stimulated enough to stay driving. And when you're playing a game, you don't fall asleep because your brain is stimulated enough, but you can also pay full attention to the audiobook that you're listening to because it doesn't demand that much of your brain's activity once you sort of get like the habitual play of it. So yeah, number 4 on this list is just the soothing, relaxing, melodic gameplay of Diablo. And number 5 on this list is the diversity of gameplay just already built into the game. You can play for years and use a single class and become really good at that class, and then you can pick a different class and know nothing about it and have an entirely different gameplay experience. There is so much complexity and so much niche diversity to each of the different classes that even pros of Diablo 2 who haven't tried other character classes will find themselves feeling like noobs when they try out a new character class, and the playstyles are really just so different. And that's really one of the interesting things about Diablo 2. This game was made by a group of developers that put so much care and so much diversity and so much depth into their game that even veterans of 10 and 20 years can still learn something new and be surprised by what they didn't already know. What kind of game does that these days? What other game is there that's really like that these days? I mean, Diablo 2 spawned a generation of games. That's saying something. This is the original, and it's never been done as good. That is my humble opinion. There are other good games out there like Path of Exile, of course, but I don't think they're as good. That's, like I say, you can disagree with me in the comments if you want, but this was the game that started a genre. I mean, that's saying something, right? That's got to be saying something. All right, time for one bonus endgame item on this list, and that is the multiplayer. Diablo 2's multiplayer BattleNet is a really great way to jump into games with other people. You can make friends, you can have a sort of social outlet from Diablo. The community around this game is so strong and so supportive. There's just something special about the Diablo multiplayer community that's really different from a lot of other games. There's a little bit more character interaction just out of the gate. You know, it's a really, really cool multiplayer experience. And that's the thing, like social outlet and social activity, meeting people and making friends, that is a meta endgame in and of itself. So that's pretty cool. Just a bonus, just a little bonus on this list. Hope you have enjoyed this video.